Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something that most people ain't gonna wanna hear, but I'm gonna say it anyway because I don't do fake. If he truly loves you, he'll disappear. Let me break this down for y'all, and I want you to hear me real good. Sometimes a man will walk away from a woman he truly loves, not because he stopped caring, not because he's playing games, not because he's heartless, but because deep down he knows he cannot give her what she really deserves. He knows that the man he is today is not enough for the woman she's becoming. Now, that don't mean he's a bad man. It just means he's not ready. And the worst thing a man can do is stay in a relationship and keep taking from a woman he knows he cannot pour into. Now, I know some of y'all are thinking, well, if he loved me, he'd stay and try. I hear that. That's how most women are wired. Y'all believe in working it out, sticking through, being loyal, and there's nothing wrong with that kind of heart. But understand this, a real man, a man with a conscience, a man with self-awareness, he ain't gonna let you carry him forever, because deep down, he knows love alone ain't enough. If all he's bringing is I love you, but no vision, no purpose, no peace, no stability, no leadership, then all he's really doing is sitting in the passenger seat of a car you're driving, hoping you don't get tired. And let me tell you something, he knows you will. And when a man realizes that, when he realizes that he's asking a woman to shrink just to stay beside him, that she's climbing, evolving, reaching, and he's still down there dragging his feet, sometimes the most loving thing he can do is remove himself from your path. Now, you might not understand it at first. It might feel like rejection. It might feel like abandonment. It might even make you question everything you thought was real between y'all. But let me flip your perspective. That man ain't leaving to hurt you. He's leaving because loving you forced him to face himself. And when a man faces himself and sees he's not enough, not just financially, not just emotionally, but spiritually, mentally, holistically, then he has two choices. He can fake it and ride your energy till you're empty, or he can step aside and get his life together. Now, I know what some folks might say, but he could have grown with me. Yeah, that's true in theory, but growth ain't no hand-me-down jacket. You can't just wrap someone in your growth and expect it to fit. A man has to grow on his own. He has to want it. He has to bleed for it. And when a man knows he ain't done the work, when he knows he's still in survival mode while you trying to build an empire, he'll start feeling like dead weight. And trust me, most men can't stand that feeling for long. And you can always tell when a man truly loved you by the way he left. See, a player ghosts you with no explanation, no thought, no remorse. But a man who truly loved you might not say everything you wanted to hear, but his silence will speak volumes. He didn't walk away with pride. He walked away with pain. But he walked anyway because he knew staying would eventually turn that love into resentment. He knew he'd start breaking you down to feel better about not rising up. So don't always take his leaving as a loss. Sometimes it's protection, sometimes it's preparation, sometimes it's love in its most painful form. The kind that says, you're too good for who I am right now, and I refuse to keep dimming your light just so I can feel better in the dark. That ain't weakness. That's a man who sees your value even when he can't reach it yet. That's a man who loves you enough to know the difference between holding you and holding you back. And if he ever comes back, and I'm not saying he will, but if he ever comes back better, stronger, clearer, more whole, then maybe, just maybe, you'll understand why he had to disappear in the first place. Let me tell you something about grown men. And I'm not talking about boys with facial hair. I'm talking about men who've been through some storms, men who've sat with their regrets, men who know the difference between having a woman and being ready for one. A grown man with some seasoning on him, some understanding, some self-awareness. He won't stay in your life just to keep hurting you. He might love you deep, and I mean love you so much it scares him. But if he sees that his presence is doing more damage than good, he's going to make one of the hardest decisions a man can make. He's going to leave. Now, to the outside world, that might look like weakness. To you, it might feel like betrayal. But I promise you, when a man knows he's bleeding emotionally, when he knows he's still carrying trauma, still unpacking years of pain, still figuring out how to be whole, he understands that staying with a good woman when he's not healed is dangerous. Dangerous for you and dangerous for him, because he knows that love without healing turns into sabotage. He knows that every argument, every cold shoulder, every unreturned call, a broken promise, it ain't because he doesn't care. It's because he's at war with himself. And if he stays, he's going to start projecting that pain onto you. That's when relationships get toxic, not because there's no love, but because there's too much unhealed hurt. A grown man, a man who respects you, who values you, who sees your light, he refuses to become the reason you doubt yourself. So when he sees that pattern starting to form, when he sees himself reacting instead of responding, shutting down instead of showing up, he steps back. He pulls away, not to abandon you, not to play games, but to confront the parts of him that need fixing. And trust me, that ain't easy, because men are taught to push through, to hold it in, to stay silent and pretend everything's fine. But when a man has matured, when he's lived long enough to know how precious peace is, he'll realize that sometimes healing requires solitude, not sex, not distractions, not another woman, solitude. And I'm going to say this too, because some of y'all need to hear it. Just because a man leaves doesn't mean he stopped loving you. Sometimes it's the complete opposite. It takes deep love and discipline to walk away from someone who makes you feel safe, loved, and accepted, because you know staying in that love while you're broken will only turn your blessing into a burden. He sees the woman you are. He sees the woman you're becoming. And he refuses to let his pain ruin that. Now, here's the thing. You might not understand his silence. You might replay the last conversation over and over, wondering where it all went wrong. But just know this, if he was man enough to leave without throwing blame, without pointing fingers, without tearing you down just to justify his exit, then you were dealing with a grown man. Because a grown man walks away with respect. He walks away because he knows staying would only drag you both down. He knows that love, real love, doesn't mean holding on when your hands are full of broken pieces. It means stepping back, doing the work, and maybe, just maybe, coming back whole or not coming back at all. And if he don't, it ain't always because he found someone else. It might just be because in his process of healing, he realized he wasn't the man he thought he was. And that journey became about more than the relationship. It became about redemption, about learning how to show up right if the opportunity ever comes again. So don't confuse his leaving with weakness. It might just be the strongest move he's ever made. Because a grown man knows when you truly love someone, you do not stay to hurt them. You walk away to heal yourself so you don't end up destroying the very person who tried to love you whole. We live in a world where people think love means being around all the time. They think if somebody ain't blowing up your phone, if they ain't sitting beside you every night, if they ain't showing up in every picture and every plan, you ain't loved. But let me tell you something real right now. Love ain't always loud. It ain't always visible. And it sure as hell ain't always present. Sometimes the strongest love comes wrapped in silence. Sometimes it comes dressed as absence. Because real love, grown love, understands sacrifice. And sometimes that sacrifice is stepping away. Now, I know some of y'all don't like that. You're sitting there thinking, Steve, how can love walk away from me? But you've got to flip how you see it. A man might not be by your side right now, but that doesn't mean he didn't love you deeply. That doesn't mean what y'all had wasn't real. See, presence is easy. Anybody can show up. Anybody can sit next to you. Anybody can hang around because they're comfortable, but it takes strength to leave when your presence might do more harm than good. There are men out here who loved a woman so much they removed themselves just to keep her spirit intact because they knew deep down that staying would slowly drain the life out of her. They could see it. Her energy dimming, her smile fading, her joy getting replaced with confusion and doubt. And a real man, when he sees that he's the cause of that pain, he'll make the decision to walk away. Not because he's given up, but because he refuses to be the reason she stops believing in love. See, presence don't always mean peace. Sometimes the one who's around you the most is the one holding you back the hardest. And absence ain't always abandonment. Sometimes it's the ultimate act of love. It's saying, I love you so much, I'd rather lose you than be the reason you lose yourself. Now that right there, that's not weakness. That's not fear. That's sacrifice. You have to understand that love matures. It grows out of fairy tales and steps into reality. And in that reality, two people might not be aligned at the same time. One might be ready to build a life while the other is still trying to rebuild themselves. And when that imbalance happens, someone's going to get hurt. And if the man truly cares, if he sees that he can't match the love he's receiving, he won't stay and fake it. He'll walk away and carry the weight of that decision so you don't have to carry the weight of his confusion. And it don't mean it didn't hurt him too. People think when someone disappears, they just move on like it's nothing. But you don't know how many nights that man cried too. How many times he wanted to call but stopped himself. How many times he almost reached out just to hear your voice, but remember, he didn't want to open the wound back up. Because the absence ain't easy for him either. But he chose it. He chose it because he knew your healing was more important than his comfort. You see, the world teaches us to chase love we can see, love we can touch. But some of the deepest love you'll ever know, you won't be able to hold. You'll only feel it in the choices a person made behind the scenes. You'll feel it in the space they gave you to breathe, to grow, to thrive. That man might not be beside you anymore, but the impact of his decision to let you go instead of dragging you down That's the kind of love that don't come with selfies and date nights, but with truth, humility, and the kind of selflessness that says, you matter more than my need to be close to you. So when someone disappears from your life, don't always rush to call it rejection. Don't always label it as abandonment. Sometimes that absence is the purest expression of love you'll ever receive. Let me tell you something about real men. I'm talking about the kind that's trying to walk right, talk right, live right. The ones that are trying to get their mind, their money, and their manhood all lined up the right way. See, when a man truly loves a woman, and I mean deep down in his soul, hard skipping a beat kind of love, he starts looking at himself differently. He starts seeing his flaws, his weaknesses, his gaps. And he starts asking one hard question: am I enough for her? Now, when that answer is no, and he knows it, not from her telling him, but from his own spirit convicting him, he ain't gonna keep pretending. He ain't gonna fake like he's got it all together. He's not gonna let her keep pouring into him while he gives her drops in return. No, if he truly loves her, and I mean, if that love is rooted in respect and admiration, in knowing what kind of woman he's got, he's going to step back. He's going to disappear, not because he doesn't care, but because he cares enough to say, let me get myself right before I come back to her. See, some men stay around broken. They hold on out of fear, out of ego, out of selfishness. They drain the woman they love, dragging her down with their chaos because they're too afraid to admit they're not ready. But a man who's grown, a man who's self-aware, is a man with some backbone and vision. He don't want to love her halfway. He don't want to stand beside her knowing deep down he can't protect her, lead her, or match her energy. So what does he do? He vanishes. He goes quiet. He takes the pain of separation and puts it on his back so she doesn't have to carry it anymore. And let me tell you something, it hurts him too. You think walking away from a woman you love is easy? You think choosing silence when everything in you wants to hold her is simple? No, that's one of the hardest things a man can do. But when he looks at her, when he sees the kind of woman she is, the kind that prays for him, encourages him, stands with him, he knows deep down, I can't give her this version of me. She deserves more. She deserves better. So he disappears to work on himself. He disappears to build something, to fight his demons, to learn how to love without conditions. And if you really pay attention, that silence he gives you, it's full of respect. It's full of meaning, because he'd rather go fix his broken pieces in private than bleed all over you in public. That's maturity. That's honor. Now here's the catch. You may never see him again. He might come back better, he might come back whole, or he might not come back at all, because in the process of becoming the man worthy of you, he may learn that part of loving you was letting you go forever. That's the gamble, but that's also the love, because it was never about possession, it was about protection. So don't confuse disappearance with disloyalty. Don't confuse silence with selfishness. Sometimes a man disappears not because he's weak, but because he's strong enough to recognize he ain't what you need right now. And that right there, that's real love. Because a man that's playing games, he'll stay, lie, cheat, distract you, waste your time. But a man who truly loves you, he'll step away until he becomes the man that can step to you, stand beside you, and deserve you.